This is the new BFGoodrich KO3. When I say new, I mean the latest version. Back in May of 2024, BFGoodrich released the KO3, but it was an OE version that was available to certain manufacturers. Now, in the last couple of months, they have released the updated version in additional sizes, and that is what we have right here. We'll test this tire on your typical full-size pickup truck. This is a 2013 Ford F-350 Super Duty 6.7 liter diesel with a couple of passengers and a full tank of fuel. Weighs over 9,000 pounds. And no, I am not joking about that number. This thing is heavy. However, the new features on this tire will still apply to your smaller size tires or even on smaller vehicles. This is a 325/65 R18, which is equivalent to a 35 by 12.5. So what has changed compared to the KO2? Well, the center tread block right in here has gotten a little bit tighter. There's not as much of a gap between the tread blocks right in here. And a lot of people are going to say that that is bad because it's going to reduce your mud performance. That's not necessarily true when you look at the overall tire, and I'll explain that in just a second. The close pattern and the fact that the tread blocks are reinforced with each other gives more stability, but it also gives better dry performance and tire life. A lot of people tow with their full-size pickups, especially the diesel guys. Well, this particular tire is now a 12-ply F-load rated, whereas the old KO2 of the same size was 10-ply E rated, and combine that with the tighter, stronger center tread pattern gives much more stability while towing. Now, anybody that's towed anything heavy with a tire that has soft, movable tread blocks or a soft sidewall will know that it feels a bit sketchy. Let's talk mud performance. Most of the tire's mud performance is going to come from the outer edges of the tire. The KO3 now has a larger gap right in this area here compared to the KO2. These little rock kickers are more refined to help extract the mud and keep it from sticking between the treads. I think these outer lugs right here stick out just a little bit more, but I can tell you for sure that these sidewall lugs protrude a lot more, and that is going to be a big part of your mud performance. Plus, this little notch right here gives you an additional biting edge. So all of that does make for a better performing tire in the mud, plus it should also be better performing in the snow. Speaking of snow, the KO3 has more siping than the KO2. These lugs have 5 sipes versus 3 on the KO2, and I'd say a good 25% more over the course of the whole tire, which means it's going to be better in snow, but more importantly, it's going to have more traction on ice. I should reiterate that these are a proper all-weather tire. Well, certain places like British Columbia, Canada, and certain times of the year and certain roads, it requires a winter-rated tire. And this little snowflake makes these tires legal. I won't go into too much detail on how the latest version of the KO3 compares to the OE version. Outdoor Auto did a wonderful video comparing that. I recommend you check that out at some point. But the quickest way to tell the difference is this lug right here is kind of like a caterpillar shape, whereas the OE version, it's like an S. Also, the outer lug right here has this little notch on the latest version, and it wasn't there on the OE. Well, that's the differences. That's the looks. That's the theory. Is the KO3 actually better than the KO2? Is it still class leading, especially on trucks like this? Let's go find out. For dry weather performance, you're not going to notice a difference between this and the KO2 or really any other all-terrain tire in this category. Any kind of differences, got someone speeding by me. Why? What the hell is this guy doing? All right, whatever. Any differences in sharpness or reaction? Too insignificant to tell. I mean, we're not road racing this tire. I will say it's a very comfortable tire. I thought the same thing with the KO2, but this is just as good or better. So take that for what it's worth. On the highway, again, very comfortable. It doesn't dart around, it doesn't float around, it's very stable. There is some road noise, but it's very minimal. I'd say it's comparable to the KO2. No difference really one way or the other. Certainly nowhere near as loud as like a mud terrain that actually howls. Again, I would say the truck itself makes more noise than the tires.
3 weeks later.
So I waited for the rain to show up. It didn't happen. but the snow sure did. Wow, got about 6 to 8 inches right now, and I figured today's a great day to go and test these KO3s in snowy conditions. And so far, my first impressions are pretty darn impressed. Definitely better than the KO2s thus far. Now, there isn't a lot of ice on the ground, but there sure is a lot of loose snow, some deep snow here and there, and in some cases some packed snow, because obviously traffic has driven over it. But yeah, there's definitely some pretty decent forward traction with these tires, that's for sure. I'm currently in two-wheel drive only, and so far so good. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still slippery because, I mean, we're talking it's snow, but overall, like, it will move you forward. Like, I'm not having really any problems. Braking, it isn't too bad either. I can slow down, like, that's not bad. I'm not even into the ABS. I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, I had to get moving because people are coming behind me. The lateral traction, I would say, is so far the worst, going around corners. I mean, obviously, it's going to be different in different vehicles, but this is quite a heavy vehicle, and it understeers quite badly. But of course, in these conditions where there's a lot of loose, relatively deep snow on the surface, it's just going to kind of float over it. But in terms of longitudinal traction, braking, and acceleration, it's actually very good. Again, two-wheel drive, I'm at a stop sign, get through it. You know, it's not fast, but I'm making it through. If I put this in four-wheel drive, obviously it's going to be a lot better. At a stop sign in four-wheel drive, easy peasy, lots of traction. I have like 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, so if I want to get a little sideways, that's easy to do, that's for sure. I'm finding that whether I'm in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, there's plenty of stability, gives me a lot of confidence. And I think that is a very valuable and a very important piece of a winter tire, is they gotta give you confidence. Let's say I had to go into the deeper snow, just kind of float into this. Again, I'm not being pulled over. Like, some of that snow was actually very, very deep. Very deep, actually. And I'm getting through it. I can get across, back into the pavement side. It all is working very good. What can I say? I can make that four-wheel drive. We got to get through it. Easy. Never in danger. Aggressive braking from about 30 miles per hour was very successful. Here you can see the center treads fill up with snow, but the outer tread blocks stay relatively clean. Testing traction on a hill can be a challenge, especially in two-wheel drive. Some shallow ditches and some light off-roading wasn't much of a challenge for these KO3s. So what's my conclusion in the snowy conditions? I'm impressed. They are very good tire. I am not surprised why these are class leading in snow conditions. They may not be as good as a tire that is 100% designed and dedicated to snow and ice conditions, but for an all-terrain tire, you can't really go better, at least in the kind of vehicle that I'm running. What can I say? They're good. You won't be disappointed, that's for sure.